which is Brygada in Polish, which is quite the same.
Brygada in Spanish, in almost every language.
Yeah, it's an easy title to translate. So we will be talking about the book itself, but we're going to start with some background. And what is the most, I would say, sensational thing about the book is that it was crowdfunded. It's maybe not exceptional itself, but the whole story behind it, I guess, is interesting for Polish readers and Polish artists as well, because crowdfunding is not that popular yet in Poland. So, as far as I understood, the book was initially planned to be published in Spanish, French, and English.
Yes.
Which are the main markets for comic books in Europe?
In fact, it's when you start a crowdfunding campaign, you have to know your limits and to know your expectations, because I counted on my previous albums, my previous books were published mostly in France and Spain. France is the biggest market, and counting on how much books I needed to make the crowdfunding campaign success. I just needed 1,500 people to support my book to make it possible. And if I started my book campaign only in Spanish, in my country, it wouldn't be possible. Just 500 people, as much. So I counted on making it the more international possible to make all the people participate and distribute widely the campaign.
So why two campaigns? I mean, one was for the first book, and the other one was for the second book.
Actually, the book published here is the two books together in one.
Okay,
there's another book. The last book is going to be published next year. Is last one, and will be more or less like this one.
Okay, so it closes within the three different volumes. Okay, the whole story of the Brigada of Dwarfs. Okay, but it was initially planned to be Spanish, French, and English, but in the end, it came up that the book is available in Italy as well and Brazil.
Not yet Brazil, but it's in negotiations. But in Italy, they also supported the campaign. They are a traditional publishing house, and I asked them to support the campaign as they publish my older works, and they participate in the publishing as well. And also, when I started the first campaign, my publishers in France, they were also asking if I didn't reach the goal in the campaign, they told me to support me in a way. I don't know if they will be publishing the book directly or supporting the campaign in any way, but at the end it wasn't necessary, and it was better this way, because the idea of making the crowdfunding campaign is to make the book as free as possible. It's your own book, your own stuff, and then you decide how to move, how to distribute, sell
so
internationally.
You mean copyright free?
The copyright free, exactly.
Well, but what are the advantages of publishing the book by yourself? I mean, just briefly, because you started in 2004 in a respected publishing house of Glénat in France. And you stick to them for quite a long time, because in 2012 you still published this Cobra album with Glénat. So you stick with them around 10 years.
I worked for Delcourt, Glénat, and
so many other publishers, respected publishers in France.
Yes.
So why did you decide to go solo? I mean, what are the advantages, and what was wrong with publishing within the respected publishing houses?
It's not about them. It's like a relationship. It's not about them. It's about me. I was kind of tired of some things related to publishing this way.
Which are what? I mean, because I'm quite curious. In Poland, all the artists dream about being published by the big publishing houses in France.
It's the best way to get published, and it's the best way to get not only published but get known, to promote your work. But at the same time, the market is so big that you are the new guy in the industry just a week or a month. And then
everyone forgets.
not forget, but being big companies, they cannot support you as much as you would like. And sometimes you receive foreign publishers that are asking for the rights of taking your books to them. And you send the contact to
your native publisher in France, let's say,
and sometimes
they don't.
And you don't know what happens. Yeah, okay. Sometimes it works, sometimes doesn't work, but you don't know why. Sometimes you get the mail again about they didn't tell me anything, or there are many aspects like this one, like those that just make this better.
So how it is to be an artist and a merchandiser in the same time? I mean, it's quite well. That's what I call it. I mean, you always have to think about how to sell to whom and how to, cover it all, and the things that usually publisher is taking care of. So.
It was a nightmare because I was trying to. The idea of the merchandise was to create as people know my work, but they have to trust on a book that they couldn't go to a bookshop and take a look and see what's inside. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to make it as big as possible in the concept of what to expect of this book. And one of the ideas was to make some promotional items like a statuette. Mm-hmm. But later it was some nightmare because the statuette was very complicated to make.
You mean the action figure?
The figure,
or how is it called? The statue, the small, small character one of the dwarf.
At the same time, was very expensive to make. It was too much trouble to make. But the idea was to have some items that you could see the whole thing and say, oh, there's a pen drive, there's a poster, there's an art book, there's just for the first book. And that was an interesting thing to do that maybe a publisher will never do if you work with a traditional publisher.
Well, of course, all these merchandise are connected with the crowdfunding process. You have to produce a considerable amount of bonus for different type of backers. But I was thinking, well, pen drive? What was on the pen drive? I mean...
the digital versions of the book and the art book also.
Okay, so in digital
and maybe and some videos also. Okay. Some process videos of creation of the panel of a page. Mm-hmm.
And the figurine, I mean, this action figure, was it made in Spain? Or?
In Spain, yeah.
In Spain, okay. Mm-hmm. How many of them did you do?
I don't remember, but they are very limited editions because they are hand painted.
For the big backers, for the guys who put a lot of money.
At the end were very expensive because it was handmade, and of course, if you make it in China, the expenses are going down.
And the quality also.
And the quality maybe. But, I wanted to control the quality, and I wanted to know who made the figures and control the quality at the end.
So again, to sum it up, you did publish several books on the regular market within the respected publishers in France. How many of them?
I think it's 7. I don't remember. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, but
with myself,
more or less,
my own work. It's terrible.
And then suddenly you decided to go for your own.
Yeah.
Was it a good move?
It has a balance of. It was good in many ways. It was bad in the side of managing with many things. Like the horrible thing of all this question of crowdfunding is the shipping of the books. The shipping of the books is another planet.
Because an overwhelming thing to do.
It's an overwhelming, and also you cannot trust even if you have a contract with some companies for sending the books. Because what happened with the first book. I have a contract with a company, a well-known company of shipping, the shipping industry, and they didn't deliver it, maybe half of the books, but they...
And the rest?
And the rest
is gone?
They are in another planet also.
In space?
No, it's like for Spain it was easy because it was my market. I knew if the books arrived. But for France, that it was my my most important market. It's like once they arrived to the frontier, they put it on the trash, all the books. I didn't know what happened with the half of the books.
It's an interesting...
So I had to make another shipping of the books.
It's an interesting attitude, considering that we are in the Union. I mean, both Spain and France.
They don't care. They are a company. There's too much work for them. You have a contract, but we don't care. Yeah, this is, and for the second campaign, I trusted another company, but it will work better. But even that, you cannot deliver to any part of the world without any problem, because South America or some countries are very, very difficult to arrive.
Well, I imagine the English version was rising huge interest in America, North America, and the Spanish version probably in South America. So you had a considerable amount of books to be sent both Americas.
The problem in South America is that the shipping is too expensive for them, because it was very expensive from Spain to South America, and for them especially because they have a lower income. And in North America, at the end, was published by a company there. They buy the rights to publish the book translated in North America.
But somehow you still decided to crowdfund the other books. I mean, I have some numbers here, and 1,913 people backed you, rising together 50,063 euro, which is a lot.
It's a lot, but it's not only for me.
Well,
I'm part of this money is in the trash of the border of France. Remember that?
So okay, let's because some people ask why so much money, and it's a common question I hear. I mean, this is Enrique Fernándezem. He's like he's a wealthy guy now.
And swimming in golden.
Yeah,
pools,
exactly. Like this, guy, the Disney duck.
It's in fact in Spain this campaign worked as a how to say it, in a way, how to explain the reality about making a comic book, because many authors in Spain agree to work for free, and the rest of the authors who started to work for another companies or for French companies. We realize we deserve our salary for our work, and many people in Spain didn't understand that I was asking for my salary. It was part of my salary, part of the shipping, part of the production, the printing and everything, and many people just saw 50,000 euros. He's going to build an empire. Yeah.
Well, of course, the same problem works here. We have some crowdfunding actions in Poland as well, but I guess the biggest one was about 40,000 zlotys, which is about 10,000 euro, which is still 5 times less. And of course, there was the same questions, exactly the same questions about the costs.
Also, the taxes. I don't know the taxes here, but the taxes in Spain were 10,000. So you can take the fifth part of the incomes are going for the taxes.
Yeah, but let's get back to the essence of the idea. I mean, you said the copyright free thing was the thing for you, but I guess the money was also. I mean, were you dissatisfied with the money you earned with Glénat, or?
No, in fact, I earned more money working for a French publisher than on a crowdfunding campaign. But I managed well to, not only for the crowdfunding, just the idea of the crowdfunding was to finance the production of the books, but also the production of an excedent of books to sell to bookstores after the campaign. So I spent 2 years getting incomes from bookstores and from the books that were not related to the campaign, were books that were sold after the campaign. So if you have to think about it very widely, not just not just I need $20 for this. No, you need $2,000 for the whole thing, and be safe about everything you earn. And
are you sure you're an artist by your profession or an economist?
No, I'm very bad at numbers, and my wife could tell you I'm very bad because I made many mistakes. And also, I think it's very common in artists. We don't know how to sell our own work, and this is a constant sale of yourself, and it's something is horrible, and you have to do it. And fortunately, I don't have to do it in person, just by mail or promoting by social media, and it's the advantage of making this.
By the way, do you sell original panels? Do you even draw them?
This is all digital, but yeah, there are other kind of.
Okay, let's get back to the book.
Okay.
I mean, about the storyline. So let's tell people a little about what it is, because the book arrived today, and some people bought it. I saw a queue, the line for the autographs. So I guess they didn't have time to read it really yet. So let's spoil fun and tell them a little about what it is.
Well, it's a fantasy story about a bunch of criminal dwarfs that trapped in a. Suddenly, they are in a conflict, and they are suddenly trapped in another dimension, to say something like that. And they have to find a clue to survive together, because they are, as I said, they are criminals, and they don't want to stick together. And the idea is they have to fight even one to each other to survive in this world, to survive and come back to their home world. You know.
And I guess we're gonna see.
You realize I'm very bad selling my own work.
No, that was pretty good. I mean, I bought it already, so you know.
Okay. At the end is.
Don't tell me. Okay, so the third book will reveal the end of it. I mean, this will be closed.
Will be the end of the story.
Okay, but about the style a little. I mean, it's something we don't see very often in European comic, I guess. Would you say it's Spanish in a way? I mean,
I have influences of many styles. Animation. One of my favorite artists is Mac Mignola. I always liked the idea of not showing anything of the reality as it is, but you are a filter of this. You have to show it as you understand it. You have to make icons of everything, not just the character hyper realistic. And I think this is the way I understand.
Well, I guess you don't really like to draw legs.
No, no, they are. I like them, in fact, but I like to focus your attention on eyes or the heads, because the legs they only show a position or
Can't
a
express
movement
a lot with the legs.
So I prefer to focus on other things.
But are these big eyes influenced by manga, or is that
There's
part
also
of your?
influence. Yeah. The manga narrative is something that blown all the European way of telling comics. So everything is influencing in some way, even in things that you wouldn't consider it is a manga, maybe.
What about the color? You're being called a master of color. Did you know?
Oh yeah.
And
I like it. I didn't know, but I like it.
It looks to me like you're good in that. So
that's one of my favorite parts. I was working on animation. I still work on animation, and this kind of coloring comes from the old movies that they realized that they could speak with colors. They could explain many things in the way the color is placed in the screen, or you have emotions to transmit with the colors that are very simple. That are the ambiences that are. Just a yellow can be a complete ambience, and this emotion through color is very important for me.
Tell us more about the process, because I see there's a lot of After Effects that are done in Photoshop. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing you're doing that all by yourself.
Not Photoshop, but yeah.
So let's start from the beginning. You draw with a pencil, ink. How does it work?
This is all digital. It's made. I worked with Color Painter. It's another program. But the fact is, they have a way of inking that was very peculiar. But because this software, it was the intention of this software was to imitate as much as possible the real media. Mm-hmm. So if you ever try this program, you see 2 drops of ink that when are together very close, they merge, and this kind of simulations of ink were very interesting to work, and I decided to make this book using this program. It's an emulation of traditional ink.
Of watercolor or more like colored inks?
They are also watercolor, real oil.
And the After Effects, I mean, in American comic, you always have this bunch of people. One is the penciler, the other one is the inker, the third one is a colorist, the fourth one is just doing After Effects, and then comes the guy who puts the letters in the speech balloons. And on top of it, there's an editor who says, it's all shit, and you have to do it again. So,
all this is me, in this case.
Yeah, I kind of
especially the part of the editor, after the end of the page, you are a shit, and you will never survive. It's my opinion of myself. It's so sad.
So how long does it take to make a book like that? I mean, it's like, what is, it's like 95 pages?
I usually take one day for the drawing and 1 or 2 days for the inking and coloring for the full page.
Okay. Still digital. I mean, all of them are digital.
Yeah, digital.
Or do you do storyboards with
the story
some
was
analog media?
It depends on the book. My last book was it's called Nima. It's made only with wash and traditional media, and I enjoyed it a lot. But the problem is when you work in traditional, the scanning and the processing of the image to get the best reproduction of the natural media was very complicated for me. So as this is my side work I work for video games and animation, I wanted to be as fast as possible. So
and you also had some obligations to the backers in terms of the time of.
Yeah, I always try to be as close as possible on schedule. Yeah.
Okay, tell us more about the other thing, the other job. I mean, you said video games and illustrations, which is like thing that artists usually combine. It's very common also in Poland to do comic books on a site, and the main thing would be video games or book illustrations. Mostly video games now because this industry is growing. So how is it for you?
Now I'm working from the last years. I'm working for a company called Tequila in Madrid.
Which is the one I know from the bar, or
the one.
Okay.
They succeed with alcohol, and they are doing. No, they do. This is an indie, relatively small company in Spain, but they are doing many interesting things because they. The great thing for me is they always asking me to make crazy things. They need me to. They have a pitch of a story or a new project, and they ask me to do the first designs, and they ask me to be crazy about them, and this is something I like a lot.
So this is mostly character design
and all the art, all the design,
environment,
especially the characters, but all the art of the project.
But these are static things. Then someone is coming and doing animation on that. Or
This is my. I like it because it's the most fresh part of the project. They have some words, and you have to make something alive of this. And this is one of the things I especially like of this industry.
I've noticed you like sketching and designing things because these 2 books were followed by 2 art books, and these were.
Sorry, I have a cold. Sorry.
Okay, and these were done in the same time, or what's the story behind the art books? I mean,
the art books were
because they are quite big as well.
Yeah,
so.
They include a lot of side designs or previous designs and storyboards and everything.
So these are mostly leftovers from the project, or there is like a bigger concept
preliminary
behind.
Concept art for even a design of a weapon or something like that.
No problems with sharing that with people for you? I mean,
no.
Some artist says like, I don't want to show.
This is something I wanted to show in other works that were more important for me than maybe the final pages, and then this was the opportunity to make it. Like crowdfunding allows you to make your own product, and this was interesting in this way. Sorry. So I started to promote storyboards, and it was part of the pedagogy or the teaching how a comic is made, because many people think that the comic is just something that is printed and is ready, and no, many people told me, what's the storyboard? Why do you do the comic 2 times or 3 times? Because they consider the page of the storyboard, the pencil page, and the final page like 3 different books. These kind of things are helping people to understand how it works, the process.
And the script writing, I mean, you invented the story, I guess, by yourself. And so did you wrote it down from end to end before you started to draw, or is it evolving more organically?
As I am, as it's not my first work, or it's my side work, I always try to be very tight on a schedule. I prefer to have every aspect ready before going to the next step. So a script, storyboard. Yeah, because it's a production, and sorry, and I have to control it. Because many people start to make pages and then you realize that this doesn't work. You have to eliminate part of the. It's like trashing your own work. I prefer to control everything and be sure it will be arrive in time.
And you value your time.
Exactly.
But is there any space for improvisation there, or I mean, did you by any chance happen to change something in the storyline?
Mostly in the final page, I try to color different ways than expected, or maybe I figure a scene in one color, in main color, and then I switch to another, or tiny details, but they are just tiny details at the end, not full range of improvisation, because it's very difficult to maintain the art constant during all the book.
So you like to draw doors and swords and axes, and but what do you hate to draw? I mean,
legs. No. I hate to. I try to avoid any modern like drawing a city or architecture or cars. I don't like cars.
But you don't mind to draw the medieval castles and
no, it's something very close to me, and I like it. But it's strange because sometimes you receive proposals of script writers that after seeing your all published works, all my works are like fairy tales or
middle-age fantasy. And
yes, sometimes arrives some script writer. I have a story for you. It's in Brazil, racing cars in Brazil. Okay, you wrote all my books. It's very strange. I don't know.
But I never feel an urge to change something. I mean, the subject. I'm not
it depends on the story. It depends on the story because on my usual work I have to draw everything. So I have.
Okay, so you have an experience in drawing.
I know how to draw a car or a city or everything. But
you just don't like to do that.
I don't. It's my choice because comic books are my personal part of my art.
So, are you trying to move to drawing comics only, or is it possible even?
I'm sorry?
To live just out of this. I mean,
it's possible if you manage professionally. That's the reason of making it in a sense of control of your own production, or be aware of your limits. There are many things to consider, because if you work with if you put a foot on the French market, you can live doing many kinds of books, and you get a very good salary.
Okay, so you're copyright free. There is no Glenna logo on the cover.
No.
So now you can do anything with that, and that would be what? Video game, animation, full movie.
The chances of this. There's a chance of video game also.
Okay, super cool.
And if I ring or call to, it depends on me at the end. So I have to call the person who will move this like a movie or whatever.
Do you plan on that?
I would like it once I finish the book. So because it's very difficult to move, to start moving one product that is unfinished. It's very difficult, but it's something I would like to do. Just try, because it doesn't depend on my life. Doesn't depend on this work. it's something I would like to try and see how it works.
It's
the same idea when I started to do this.
So what is the time frame of that? I mean, the time frame of that. I mean, when exactly are we going to see the final?
I have just started. We finished the crowdfunding campaign 2 months ago.
Yeah, I've noticed. I was following that.
And I'm writing the script, the final script.
Okay, so you crowdfunded that, but with no script at all. I mean, just
no written script. Just the idea, the timing of everything.
You pitched that. Okay, so now you have to write it down, draw it, print it, and pray to deliver.
Yeah, this time I'm making it. I'm not making it alone. I crowdfunded this with a platform. This is called a Spaceman Project. It's a mix of publisher and a crowdfunding platform. And they manage the worst part, the part of the shipping, the part of the printing, the part of the, because when I just a sample, when I wanted to make the books, I started to visit printers with my other books in hand. They were exactly like this, and I was saying how much
would it
for
cost,
this book, etc. And they didn't consider me like a professional. They sent me budgets of American comic books or something like that. Something nothing to do with this.
Not in the quality of that.
No, it's kind of they didn't understand what I was talking about. It was very difficult also for this. Many doors to call, many people to make understand what I wanted to do.
So how did you come across the Polish publisher, the Lane publishing house? Did they contact you, or
they contacted me? I didn't know them. They contacted me. I was talking with other Polish publishers, and at the end they called me and they made a good proposal, and it was very fast once they contacted me.
So let's get this clear. I mean, several different publishers from Poland contacted you in the same time, approximately.
Maybe two. I don't
maybe
remember.
two. Okay, but then it's still several.
Several. I don't know how much.
Two is still a considerable number.
A lot.
A lot. It's a lot. It's now we have like 50 different publishing houses doing comic books now. I mean, not all of them are doing only comic book, but some of them are just doing books, regular books. Oh, okay, we have 10 minutes. So, yeah, so fast forward, and we know the time frame. So how long does it take from script, drawing, printing, and delivering?
Estimated delivery.
Estimated delivery, Christmas 2022.
July next year, maybe.
July 2020. Good. Great. So, do any of you have any questions? I was
so fast.
Quite expecting that. So since we have 10 minutes, let's use them up for questions.
Okay, hey. I'd like you to tell us something more about your cooperations with other creators or writers or something like that. For example, like I get you to sign today King from Kickstarter. So
in fact, the only time I published it with a scriptwriter was an adaptation of the Wizard of Oz for this kind of volumes, for this kind of books in France. And then a Spanish colleague also, we made a short stories. And King is a proposal from the creators of this comic book. And they sent me a proposal, and it was interesting. It was really crazy, and I started to. It was just 8 pages, maybe, and 6, 8, maybe. I don't know. But the story was so crazy, I accepted it. And sometimes you have the time to make side works, and others not. But sometimes there are script writers that send proposals on, or maybe it's the publisher who asks you to find or to choose a script writer to work with, and then you talk with the script writer, and you have to manage with him if they have time, if they have a project for you. It's very difficult. So, but the thing is, this is my personal part of my work, or is at the end you have a book with your name, and if someone knows you, will say, this is Enrique Fernández. So I prefer to make my own stories and promote myself this way. No. Okay.
Any more? From here or there or nowhere? Good. So I'm coming back, sitting here. Good. So, what do you think about Polish comic artists? You've seen some of them while signing.
I have seen in the down room. In fact, I'm not very
impressed.
No, they want to kill me. No, my friends say I'm the worst comic book buyer because I don't buy many books. Because I don't like to keep them. I buy books and then give
them away.
Yeah.
You are the best book buyer, the best friend of book
because
buyer.
I don't buy too much. So. But the ones I buy and the ones I keep are like gold. So
You're just very selective.
Not selective, but it's a matter of first of a space, of room in your house, and then because I'm not impressed by a full array of comics. I tend to go to independent bookshops and to see more strange combinations of narration and graphic part. And I'm more attracted more and more to children illustration, so I'm leaving more the comic book.
So if I understand correctly, it's I mean you enjoy writing your own stories and illustrating them, but you consider also, I mean you do like to work with the writer to just illustrate.
Yeah. In fact, I do it every day. So my work is I have projects working directly with the script writers or the directors of a movie or whatever, and you have to work as a team. The problem is for a book that is representative of yourself, it's very difficult for me because I want to feel a great connection with the script writer. I have a project in mind with that could be brightened by another artist, but it should be very close to what I have in mind. And in this case, I don't like to negotiate too much. It's very difficult to work this way.
So, how many texts are you reading per year?
I'm sorry.
How many texts are you reading? The proposals, I mean, people who say...
Not much.
Not much?
No.
So it's
because
not like
the fact that I live, in a way, the French market, is like you disappear for the world. So you don't get as much promotion there as if you are publishing there in the usual way, with a distributor, etc.
That's how we came back to self-publishing and the reasons to leave the big publishing houses. This is our last 2 or 3 minutes, so if anyone wants to ask a question, that will be the time, and if not, then thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Please enjoy us at the comic battle that starts in 1 hour from now here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for coming. And, buy my books, not the others.